Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Lawrence Michael, Operations Manager for Air Quality Remediation, doing a final video. I don't know if anybody, watched my last video about the homeowners that were taken advantage of by they're not a remediation company, so I don't want to call them that, I guess, by a shyster, we'll just say that. But anyway, I won't delve too much into that. I don't want my blood to boil over again in this video like it did the last one. So in a nutshell, there was a good amount of mold growth in this basement. The homeowners hired a company to come in and do a remediation. That is not what they did. They paid a large sum of money for a company to come in and just paint the block walls, the block foundation walls. I'm not sure what they painted it with. It certainly wasn't an encapsulant. It certainly wasn't an IICRC approved encapsulant. It certainly didn't meet any manufacturer specifications for any type of mold remediation process or standard operating procedure. So we had to come in, fix their mistakes, which actually added a substantial amount of cost and time. Because as any of you know that have watched any of my previous videos, the standard operating procedure for any remediation, whether it's mold or lead or asbestos or silica dust or any other contaminant, is to build a containment, establish negative air pressure, and then start your remediation. This company did neither of those things, so because they did neither of those things and then they started with messing with mold affected surfaces, the whole house was contaminated, so we had to do our remediation down here in the basement and then go up into the rest of the house and decontaminate everything because at that point the house was contaminated. It was likely that the mold spores were in the ductwork and all over the rest of the house, and the homeowners being elderly with pre-existing conditions, it is likely that they would have health concerns because of it. So long story short, we came in, did the remediation correctly, built our containment, set up our negative air pressure. There was mold spores and mold growth all on all of the floor joists and decking throughout this entire basement. So along with the drywall here going up the steps and then in the crawl space as well. So after we established our negative air pressure and built our containment, we wire brushed, HEPA vacuumed, sanitized all the surfaces with an antimicrobial solution, and then encapsulated all the surfaces with Foster 4020, which is the correct encapsulant per the manufacturer's specifications, doing all the necessary procedures before encapsulating, and then encapsulating it at least all the surfaces at least 10 mils thick. That is what the IICRC and the Foster Manufacturing Company specifies, and that's the correct way to go about it. I'll jump in the crawl space here and show you that as well, but this is what the basement is supposed to look like when the remediation is complete. Now, there really wasn't any items in this basement, so it made the decontamination pretty simple down here, but when we got here there was still a large amount of mold growth on this water tank and the pump and all the PVC piping, so all of that has been cleaned up and decontaminated. There's no more mold spores on the tank. No more on the PVC piping. We did install a dehumidifier, and as you can see right now, it's about 88% relative humidity in here, which is, really, really high. The industry standard is 65%. If there is above 65% relative humidity inside of an area, it's likely that there could be mold growth. So certain mold spores can grow off just relative humidity alone if it's above 65%. So we just turned the dehumidifier on, ran the discharge hose over to the sump pump. There is still basement waterproofing that needs to be done in here. We still need to cut a French drain and do some holes in the block walls to relieve some hydrostatic pressure. And after we install the dehu and do the basement waterproofing part of it, we also installed a moisture barrier throughout the crawl space. So all of those things put together will substantially reduce the relative humidity inside the space, which will also help prevent mold growth from occurring in the future. So just a quick look through the basement, and then we can hop up in the crawl space. So we had to pull down all this insulation because there was mold all on the floor joists and decking, so we pulled all the insulation down, did our normal procedure for wire brushing, HEPA vacuuming, sanitizing, and encapsulating all the wood joists and decking, and then replaced all the insulation. Mold can eat fiberglass. It's a common misconception. Now, because mold won't eat the fiberglass doesn't mean that mold can't be on insulation. It just won't eat the fiberglass itself, but it can eat the paper backing. So if it is faced insulation with a paper backing, it can eat the paper backing of the insulation. So I'm going to jump up in the crawl space and I'll be right back with you. Alright, and we're back. So jumped up in the crawl space. Again, as you can see, all the floor joists and decking have all been treated and encapsulated. This is a moisture barrier that we installed down on the ground on the dirt part of the crawl space. This part of the crawl space here is a concrete slab, so we don't have to put a moisture barrier there, but wherever there is a dirt part of the floor, we install our 6 mil thick moisture barrier and then affix all the edges to the concrete foundation walls with duct tape and spray glue. Our spray glue that we use is a low VOC adhesive, which means VOCs are volatile organic compounds, which is the smell that you get. So things with high VOCs means that it has a lot of smell to it. So for instance, anybody that's opened a can of paint and was painting inside their house, you can tell that the smell is pretty prolific, so they have high VOCs. So a lot of times when we're working in a space, because odors are so subjective to different people, we use a low VOC adhesive and a low VOC chemical and low VOC antimicrobial, just so that way while we're working, while we're doing any type of remediation or abatement or restoration, there is no risk of a homeowner being affected by these VOCs. So we went through again, did this side of the moisture barrier for the crawl space. Everything looks real good. Guys did a real good job. Again, everything's been encapsulated. And if you remember, I know it looks, totally different, but the last video, this piece of wood was really bad. There was a whole lot of mold on this piece of wood. So the guys did a good job covering everything up, treating everything, and then encapsulating it all. Like I said, it's probably hard to tell. You probably don't even recognize the same crawl space, but the guys did a real good job in here. So again, we still have to do the basement waterproofing side because you can tell where water has been coming in the past. So now that we have the moisture barrier set up, we'll do the French drain system around and kind of alleviate those concerns, which will also, prevent future mold growth as well. So we're going to get out of here. Everything's done, whole house decontaminated. Obviously, that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't have to do that on any basement remediation. If it's done correctly, there would be no reason to have to decontaminate the entire house as long as you establish your negative air pressure and build your containment before starting your remediation. Unfortunately, this other company did not do that. They put the homeowners at risk. If a homeowner has, these pre-existing conditions, these, breathing concerns or these immune deficiencies or anything like that, and a company comes in and does a quote-unquote remediation and does not adhere to the standards, it is a health risk. It is a concern. It can make people sick. The IICRC and NADCA and OSHA and IAQA and NIOSH and all these overseeing agencies take remediation pretty serious because they understand the health consequences that can come about if it's not done correctly. So the standards and standard operating procedures are pretty clear on what to do in a remediation setting. But I'm going to get off my soapbox. We're going to get out of here. Everything's all done. I'm going to go talk to the homeowner, show them everything. Hopefully they'll be happy with everything and they'll be, safe and healthy in their home again. And I'm not sure what will happen going forward with the other company, but I hope that they feel remorse for what they did, and I hope that they aren't able to swindle any other homeowners. But if anybody needs anything, if anybody has any indoor air quality concerns, any questions about anything, I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, you know, again, thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the next video.